banner back there, fear not.
What?
Fear not the path of truth for the lack of people walking on it. That's what he was. I mean, that's, to me, that's what he was. He was a truth teller and a dreamer. What about the transformation that took place after JFK's assassination of his father?
Well, I think that's, I think it's important to remember that a lot of people like to talk about transformations, and I just think I think there's a lot of sadness, but when he was at the University of Virginia Law School, he did have Ralph Bunche come. And there was a big fight about having Ralph Bunche come because there was a law in Virginia at that time that said you could not have a public meeting in which blacks and whites could be there at the same meeting. And my father argued with the University of Virginia about that. And the dean, the president of Virginia, whose name, he eventually became the governor of Virginia, eventually agreed with my father and allowed Ralph Bunche to come. And it was a mixed audience, and it was a huge audience, and there were more blacks than whites in the audience, but it was the first time in Virginia history that a mixed audience ever came, were ever together. So my father did, and there was no hotel that would allow Ralph Bunche to stay at their hotel. So that night, he stayed at my parents' house. And all night long, that house was bombarded, according to my mother, with apples and bananas and rocks. I don't know how many rocks, but stuff all night long, hit. So it's not like my father had not dealt with these issues earlier on in his career. He hadn't dealt with it as, he didn't understand when he became Attorney General the depth of meanness in the South against black people from that experience, but he had at least been involved with the effort to do an integrated speech when he was in college, and he was the first person in Virginia that had ever managed to have an integrated speech, and probably the first person who had his house bombarded all night long. So I think it's kind of exaggerated to say this is the first time that this has ever happened. Anyway, I just think that's important to know.
It seems like to me, after JFK was assassinated.
I don't want to talk about that.
No, I don't either.
Okay, so let's have some questions from the audience.
Okay.
Are there any?
Chief? Mike?
Yes, do we have any?
Anyone have questions?
Ask there any questions here?
Raise your hand. Here we go.
Good to see you, Kathleen. I hope this is working. What is the strongest memory that you have of a conversation with your father about politics, but in kind of a deep political way, like what his vision of the country, what he hoped to accomplish as a politician?
Well, I think if you ask that question, it would be, he came to my high school. When I was a junior, I left. I was going to an all-Catholic school in Washington, Stone Ridge, which is about Rockville Pike. And after 6 years, I'd gone to Our Lady of Victory, which was a parochial school. Then I went to Stone Ridge, which was an all-girls school. And then I discovered in my sophomore year that all they wanted to talk about is boys. And since I was in an all-girls school, I thought this was a waste of like, if you're going to talk about boys, be with boys, not dream about them. So I went to a co-ed school up in Vermont, which was a very interestingly different school because it was, one, we built our own dorms. We had cows. My job was to muck out the cows and to build the dorm and to feed the, we fed, we all had jobs. It was kind of a commie school, if you get my drift. And there were boys, which is much more pleasant to see them every day rather than Friday night. Anyway, and he came and gave a speech at that, and then did the questions and answers. And so this was not just Kathleen, but in that speech, he talked a lot about what this country should be in a much fairer, juster country. Number one, he thought that we should talk with the North Vietnamese, and that the war wasn't going well, and we should talk with our enemies rather than just keep fighting. Two, he was very worried about what was going on in Indian reservations. They had the highest suicide rate. They didn't have jobs. And in fact, it was so compelling that my roommate suggested that we work on the Indian reservation. And three, he was thought that there should be fairness, and that people in this country, and that there was not fairness. Just as I said, from those who have been given much, much should be expected. He also believed very much in the importance of work for everybody, and in other words, he wasn't on the idea of what is now popular, giving people money without work. That's because he thought that work makes you feel that you're part of the community, that you've contributed. And I remember, this wasn't part of that conversation, but once I saw that somebody was burning a flag, and I didn't say that's terrible, and he said, it's really bad. He really hated burning a flag. He was a very big patriot, and he loved this country, and that you really have to be a patriot. And I say that because one of the things that offends me, I'm not saying it's against the First Amendment, but just hurts my heart. And it's probably because I'm born on the 4th of July. But when I visit if you go up to New England around the 4th of July, everybody has a flag. Every store has a flag. Almost every house has a flag. Along the streets, there's always a flag. I have a daughter who lived in the Pacific Palisades. Luckily, she moved out about 3 months before it burned. Only 2 people had flags in their house, and one of them happened to be the house I was staying at. And the father was a Republican, and another guy who had a flag was also a Republican. Nobody else had a flag. None of the stores had a flag. And I was there for the 4th of July parade. I was stunned. And so I found it very disturbing, probably because it's my birthday and I think everybody should celebrate it. I think that seemed to be. I mean, so it's just, it hurts me more than it does others. But I think that I would like people to feel that we should love our country, and that the flag is not. I had an argument with one of my really good girlfriends who said, well, they don't like the government. I said, the flag's not a picture of the government. It's a symbol of our country and our people. And that, you guys may not all agree with that, but that's, I think, what my father would say. And we have to, and so we disagree with our government doesn't mean we should take it out on the symbols of our country. And he was very keen on that notion. So I don't know if that's helpful to you, but that.
I've never heard it referred to that the flag symbolizes the people and the country, but not the government.
Yeah, so why is it the government? Why is the flag the government? Where does that
Where
come
does that
from?
come in?
Yeah, so I think that's an important,
It's a symbol of the country, not of the government.
yeah, so I think that the Democrats have made a huge mistake by giving up on words like liberty and freedom and democracy, and the flag, and saying, those are our symbols. It's like when I disagree with the Catholic Church, I'm saying I'm as Catholic as the Pope. I mean, I don't give away anything. You may not know about that